They say money can buy almost anything, but what if the one thing you truly need can't be bought at all? When Billionaire CEO Richard Dane opened his eyes in the sterile, white hospital room, he knew he had a choice. The car crash had left him shaken, bruised, and temporarily immobile, but not in a coma. Not even unconscious for long. Just tired. Tired of being Richard Dane. Of being admired for his wealth and feared for his power. Tired of people telling him what he wanted to hear, not what he needed to know. So when the doctors rushed in and assumed he was unresponsive, he didn't correct them. He closed his eyes again. And listened. This was where it began. For the first time in years, Richard wasn't being pitched a business idea, begged for money, or flattered for access. Instead, he became a fly on the wall in his own hospital room. A passive observer of raw truth, and it changed everything. At first, it was just routine chatter. Nurses discussing his vitals, his status as the big shot in room 309, and how the media was circling like vultures. But then came her voice. "Another day, another billionaire," she said lightly. A small laugh followed. "Hope this one doesn't sue if I sneeze near him." Her voice was different. Unfiltered. Alive. She wasn't impressed. She wasn't careful. She was real. Her name was Elise. 29 years old, a trauma nurse working doubles just to pay for her younger brother's college. She moved with purpose, spoke with clarity, and had a heart too big for her own good. She talked to him even though she thought he couldn't hear. Not out of duty, but out of instinct. "Today, I brought you Mozart," she said one morning, setting down a small speaker. "Don't know if you like it, but they say music helps the brain recover." "I guess it helps me recover too. Life gets loud, you know?" Richard listened in silence, a lump rising in his throat. Each day, Elise shared a little more. About her struggles. Her fears. Her guilt. "I lost my mom to cancer last year," she whispered once, sitting beside him during a night shift. "I was working. I wasn't there." She was alone. "I still hear her voice sometimes. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse." And another day. "My brother doesn't know I skipped meals so he could have enough. He thinks we're fine. But I'm sinking, Mr. Dane. Sometimes I want to just stop pretending." Richard felt something crack inside. This woman, who barely knew him, had poured her soul into a room she thought was empty. He began to need her visits. Not just because of the stories or the music, but because for once, someone was honest around him. Elise didn't speak to his bank account. She spoke to his humanity. And that scared him more than anything else. Weeks passed. One day, his longtime business partner, Max, came in. Richard lay still, eyes closed, pretending. Max's voice was cold, calculated. "They're saying you may never recover, Rick. If that's true, well, you should know the board's already moving without you. You built the empire. But don't expect sentiment. Not in our world." He stayed for 10 minutes and never came back. Then came his lawyer, who talked more about assets than concern. Then his ex-wife, who brought a camera crew, thinking he wouldn't mind. Only Elise remained constant. But one night everything changed. It was past midnight. A storm raged outside. Thunder rolled low in the sky as Elise entered, soaked from the rain. She had tears in her eyes. Her hands trembled as she checked his phone. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore," she said quietly. "I feel invisible. But I keep coming back here because I feel seen here. Isn't that funny? You can't even talk, and you've listened more than anyone else." She paused. "I wish someone like you could see me. Not just for what I do, but for who I am. I don't want to be invisible anymore." Richard's heart thundered louder than the storm outside. He couldn't stay silent. The next morning, he opened his eyes. The nurses gasped. The doctors flooded in. The headlines screamed miracle recovery. But Richard didn't care about the media or his company. He only asked for one thing. Where's Elise? They brought her in, cautious and curious. She froze when she saw him awake. I heard everything, Richard said, his voice raw. Every word. Every story. Every tear. You saved my life, Elise. Not with medicine, with truth. She flushed, tears springing up. I didn't know. I know who you are now, he said. The world needs to see you. I want to help. She shook her head. I didn't tell you those things for help. I told you because no one else was listening. That's exactly why I trust you. In the months that followed, Richard stepped back from his company. He donated half of his fortune anonymously to hospitals, creating a fund in Elise's name to support nurses and frontline workers. He started over not as a billionaire, but as a man trying to be worthy of the second chance he'd been given. Elise? She didn't take a penny for herself. Instead, she used her newfound influence to advocate for change in the healthcare system. She stayed at the same hospital, working fewer hours, but changing more lives than ever. Richard visited her often, not as a patient, but as a friend. And slowly, something deeper grew between them. It wasn't about wealth or rescue. It was about recognition. Two people who saw each other not for what the world wanted them to be, but for who they truly were. And in a world full of noise, they found silence. In a world full of masks, they found honesty. And in a world obsessed with power, they found peace in each other. Because sometimes, you don't need the world to see you. You just need one person who does. And that changes everything.